Well, hello everybody. I'm Hal,
And I'm Melanie.
and we want to welcome you to another episode of Making Biblical Family Life Practical. Family life is different this year.
It is radically different this year.
Life is different.
It's like you wake up in an upside down world. What in the world? Who even knows what's going to happen next?
Well, God knows, and we don't. And that's about all I could say on that.
So, did you see that cartoon, Hal, with the two Christians coming out of church?
Mm.
And one of them says, "Now remind me, what chapter of Revelation are we on this month?"
Yeah. Well, okay. We're not going in that direction.
No.
But the fact is,
it's a kind of weird year, though, y'all.
It is
very weird.
It is a disruptive summer right now. I had to make a little run out to a local store this afternoon, and I'm all properly masked up and everything. So, well, you know what? Since the weather has warmed up, that has become a little more of an issue.
It's pretty hard when it's 100 degrees outside.
And I was wearing that heavy mask that we got for putting down insecticides and stuff. So I'm sort of like ducking around the corners where nobody's there and picking up the mask and go, get some oxygen into it. Oh gosh, so everybody's making adjustments and learning how to do things differently.
But one of the biggest adjustments is just we're home a lot more. Everybody's home a lot more. And I was just talking to your mom this morning that your nephews have for years participated every summer in a church activity that helps people with their houses. It's all been canceled.
And as some people have pointed out, and they're quite right, suddenly everybody found themselves homeschooling, but not like the homeschooling that the homeschoolers enjoyed, because the homeschoolers were not able to do what the homeschoolers do.
No, because normally we have co-ops and history club and football, and there's nothing. Yeah. And, so we're getting a lot of questions this summer as people are looking and saying, okay, camp's been canceled. Baseball's canceled. Football's canceled. Football camps are canceled.
Yep.
Band camp is canceled.
Art classes and dance studio are closed.
The gym is closed.
Yeah. I mean, so it really is a big change. And a lot of things that people maybe had planned to do or have always done during the summer just aren't happening. And so, we had a radio interview this morning, and that was one of the questions, what can we do when we're all on a lockdown, even though they're starting to reopen things, but it's not the same. Well, it's not everything. Well, what can we do?
A lot of people had even their vacations canceled, where they plan to go on a trip and now the trip's not working out. One of our kids was getting married, and 4 or 5 days before the wedding, he gets an email and says, from the resort they were planning to go to, and they said the mayor of our town has said we have to cancel half our reservations for social distancing, so your reservation is canceled.
Yeah. Say, okay.
The week of the
wedding.
That was stressful.
The week of the wedding, your honeymoon suddenly took a nosedive. What do you do?
That was really stressful.
Well, okay. They found a place.
They planned a place. They had a great honeymoon. Job. Yes.
They're back home. Everything is just swell. But
a lot of people are looking at what they normally would do during the summer isn't available. The outside activities, the places that they would go, the things they would normally do are not as available. And so what can you do to keep from going crazy?
Well, I think the first thing they do, like they say on Southwest Air, first stop screaming. I think we have a natural, stress to say it's not supposed to be this way. This is so inconvenient. I'm so disappointed. Life is not what I planned for it to be. Okay. But you know what? It is what it is. Now let's see, what are we going to do next? Because we can shake our fists at the sky and whatnot, but we've got to figure out what we're going to do. I mean, we can only stay angry for so long.
And one thing we're going to do is plug in everything so that it doesn't go away.
I did see a little change in the lighting. Yes. Well, but related to that, why I brought that up is to recognize that you've got to deal with your family's reality. Okay. We saw this just in our own lives because, we have a business that we run from home. It's a family-oriented business. We became extremely busy.
Well, but normally we would be traveling all over the country.
Right.
And every conference that we've had since March 1st has been canceled. And so normally we're traveling all over the country, all over the continent or further during this time of year, and we haven't been traveling at all. I expected we would have a lot of free time. But instead, in God's mercy, he multiplied our subscription box,
because
Crate,
and we are helping the people with time on their hands to fill up that time with useful activities.
And that's so exploded. We've been spending all our time on that.
Okay. And so recognize that your family is different from the family next door, and that's okay. So you can't, compare other people's situations.
Right, because some people are busier, some people are less busy, but we are nearly all more at home.
And all of us
are our kids.
And all of us are disrupted, whether it's more activity or no activity. It's a disruption.
I think one thing that we can definitely do with this time that we're spending more time with our kids, more time with our family, is focusing on relationship. Because, we're Christians. We want our children to serve the Lord. But the research shows that the biggest predictor of whether or not a child raised in the faith will continue in the faith as an adult is, do they have a good relationship with their Christian mother or their Christian father? And so even on his heart thing as, teaching your children what you believe, relationship makes a huge difference.
And let's be brutally honest. This is a time when everybody's under stress, and stress is going to find every crack in your character. And so your relationships are going to be under stress because you'll be short-tempered. I've had to apologize to my children more often than usual, just because I'm hot and bothered and worried and stressed. And
well, we had a stressful spring.
I had to
have brain surgery. It was crazy. It's been
you slept through it.
It's been a stressful year for all of us. And so it's easy to get irritable. It's easy to get short with our families. And yet relationship makes such a big difference. Most of our kids are grown up now. We still have kids at home, but we have a lot of grown kids. You can't make them call you or take your phone calls.
It's the relationship that you've got with that child that makes the one who has a choice in the matter now still want to pick up the phone or to knock on the door.
Well, I love it when, they call and they want to talk to me. That's priceless. But the roots of that are built years before then, when they're still in your home.
Well, speaking of home, there's a lot more of this year is at home.
So how do you build a relationship?
Let's use this opportunity. Well, okay. So I think one of the things, this is a good time to practice learning to listen to your child.
Yes.
You know what? To make eye contact. And that's harder when everybody is individually binging on Netflix. Although I think everybody's watched Netflix now. I think that they're done with Netflix. Okay. There's nothing else.
And Amazon Prime and Hulu.
No, but honestly, you really do need to, if you don't have the habit already, you really need to develop the habit when your child or your mate speaks to you, look at them. Look up.
Put down your phone or your computer and look at them. Because I hear people saying all the time, how do I get my teenager off his device? He doesn't hear a word I say. And I want to say, do you put down your phone when he talks to you?
Do you hear a word he has to say?
Because if we want our kids to listen to us, we have to listen to them. And so listen to them. Even if they're talking about stuff you think is stupid, even if they want to talk about Minecraft again, or whatever game they're currently playing again.
Right.
Even if they want to talk about Legos again. When you listen to them, you're showing them that you care about them as a person. Not just because they're your project, but because you care about who they are. And that makes them far more likely to listen to you. But, a lot of it too is just being together. And that can be as simple and profitable as saying, hey, come work with me, come change the oil. You're going to be driving soon. Let's learn how to change a tire or change the oil.
Well, but that still takes kind of a change of our thinking if we're not in the habit of doing it. We may say, well, I've got time off from work, so I'm going to finish this and that project around the house, or I've got this thing I need to do, or I'm working from home and I've got whatever. You still need to say, well, even though we're in the same room, if we're not doing something together, it doesn't count the same way.
And so it can be hard to make yourself do this because sometimes you're thinking it's going to take me longer if I get them involved, or it's going to be harder. I remember one time when you were changing the ceiling fans.
Yes.
And you told me to take the kids and go somewhere because it was so stressful to you working up there with your hands above your head.
Yeah, my good manners slipped real badly when I had to do that kind of job. So I just said, please go away. I don't want you to see the monster I'm about to become. But you really do need to say, just make it your rule. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything alone. Now I need to remind myself that too.
But look around and say, is there a child I can wrap up in this?
Yeah. To say, hey, I got to run down to the post office. You're not busy. Come on and ride with me. You just to spend the time, two of you doing something together.
I think that we forget that relationships take time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those really important conversations happen just because we've had enough time together.
That you just sort of happen to randomly be together.
Yeah. And so we have to arrange for that. Mm-hmm. And working together is a great way to do it because we all want our kids to be more diligent, right? And we work side by side and we can be an example to them and encouragement to them.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of giving them a task that they feel is overwhelming, to say, hey, let's work on this together,
mm-hmm.
has a whole different perspective to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so working together is a good way to build a relationship during this time.
Right.
Spend time together.
You can play together. And that takes all kinds of levels, depending on the age of the child, that might be their imaginative playtime or helping set up the dollhouse or drive little cars or whatever.
One of my mother's grandchildren lives in another country.
Yes.
And she has play dates with him over Skype or FaceTime,
mm-hmm.
where they arrange to meet at a certain time and they play pretend together.
Mm-hmm.
She'll say, we want to play today. And I'll say, let's play that we have a dinosaur park, or let's play that we're astronauts. And she just plays with him. And she's had such an influence in his life that she would have never been able to have. He's in another country in a mm-hmm. time zone that's very awkward.
Yep.
And yet they've been able to build a relationship together by her entering into his world.
And this is a time when maybe you teach your child something that's important to you. To say, hey, let me show you how to clean, whatever, to set up a fishing rod, teach them how to cast or teach them how to use your camera, or show them how to use show them how to use the yard equipment. Oh, actually that one yields some benefits. And I tell you what, you teach that young guy how to use a riding lawnmower safely, he'll keep it cut. Oh man, he'll love that. But this is also a time when you could say, hey, you know what, I really admire how you do this. Can you show me? I saw something that was so sweet just this past week. One of our adult sons was visiting. He's got his own life, his own place and all. And he was visiting with us while we were down at the lake. His younger sister is quite an accomplished artist. She's got a real gift for it. And she was out doing some plein air painting. She was just painting doing little sketches in watercolor. And so he sat down with her and said, look, can I paint with you? She said, sure. And so they're sharing the brushes, they're sharing the paint, and he's just learning still. But just to see the two of them say, look, we're going to enter into this activity together. This is a bonding moment.
They're 14 years apart. And it was really cool.
And you can do this with your children. You can do this with your mate.
Yeah. So after the break, we'll talk about more practical ways to engage your kids and then make it through this summer where everything's canceled.
We talk about sharing things. One thing that some parents are finding is useful to share is Craftsman Crate. This is our subscription box to teach artisanal skills. It's something new every month. It's an introduction to some hobby or craft or skill.
And it has absolutely everything you need. So no trips to the store, no need to put on the mask for this.
Mm-hmm.
It has real tools, real skills. It has all the materials you need.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done so many cool things.
Mm-hmm.
We've done wood carving and basketry and tin punch, like the tin punch lanterns they used to use in colonial days.
Right.
Scrimshaw and candle making and all kinds of things.
It's something new every month
at craftsmancrate.com.
All right, we want to thank you for joining us for Making Biblical Family Life Practical. I'm Hal.
And I'm Melanie.
We are talking about ways that you can engage your kids and make the most of this enforced time together during the pandemic, even in the slow stages of reopening that our governments seem to be taking. All right, so we were talking about how you just learning to listen, to be present, to actually see our family members, not just as shapes that walk past.
To listen about what they want to talk about.
Right. To make eye contact.
To make eye contact, to put down our phones or our computers and really focus on our family.
Right.
And to get along, to listen to them, because if you want them to listen to you, you got to listen to them. Mm-hmm. We talked about working together, getting out there and doing the yard work or the housework or projects together, taking on new tasks, learning new things. We were just starting to talk about playing together. Mm-hmm. One thing that I've noticed that our middle schoolers really have enjoyed is playing games together. Playing board games, playing card games.
Right.
It's a way that they can test their skill against the rest of the family. It's a way it gathers everybody together without the devices.
And that's a positive thing.
Well, it's hard. We have teenagers and our 20-somethings who are visiting us from college or whatever, and everybody's got their device, and it's boring for the kids who don't have them. They that's why they're always saying, "Dad, can I have your iPad or something?" But playing board games together, I have very happy memories of playing board games when I was a kid.
I have some happy memories from just the past few weeks.
So that's a great thing to do puzzles together, do games together, learn a new hobby together. We talked about Craftsman Crate during the break.
Right.
But Craftsman Crate has exploded during this time because people have been willing to try some new things while they've been at home.
Yep. So, work together. You can play together. You know what? Some projects are good. Now there are things which we are doing around the house. It's like, my project today is to trim the bushes in the front. That's not what I'm talking about. What we're talking about, although that's important, what I'm talking about is maybe build something together. Yeah. Maybe, and it might be both maintenance and a project like, hey, why don't we repaint your room? Or something like that. But like, we've done some interesting things over the years, just kind of, I don't know other families that have done much of this.
I don't know anyone who's done this. I thought you were crazy when you suggested it.
Well, several years ago, we borrowed a canoe from a friend when we went on vacation for the summer, and we really enjoyed it. Well, when I went out looking, thinking, oh, surely there's used canoes all over the place that nobody's using. No, there weren't. And the ones that were there were not cheap. And we just didn't have the budget for it. And then I discovered some old books, like 1910, about building boats. And we thought, really?
He thought, really?
Well, I was just,
normal people don't build boats, Al. Well, then we did.
So we thought, why not? Well, we did a little research to find out, there's a whole community online of people that build boats. And like they had contests to who could design a usable boat using only one sheet of plywood. No kidding. And we built our first boat using one of those plans, and it was incredible. And so we have built, we counted the other day, three
or four of the small ones.
We have built a total of 5 boats.
Yes.
As a family.
We built a 1-sheet skiff, which is a small boat, several of those.
We built 3 of those.
Bigger
a bigger one that took two sheets of plywood.
We built last year before last. We built a canoe.
We built a 16-foot canoe, and
and
one of the things
we love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and one of the things we learned doing this is it doesn't have to be super complex, and it doesn't have to be, we've got a project that we're this is our over the rainbow type of project to build a cedar strip canoe. But that's a big deal. What we're talking about is something that's basically glued together out of plywood, and it may last a couple or 3 years if you keep it painted and wrap it up at the end of the season. But you just enjoy it together.
We've had so much fun doing that.
And by the way, if you're interested in that, we do have a downloadable resource on our website. Go to raisingrealmen.com. We have an ebook on building your own canoe. And it's got links to a whole series of YouTube videos that we did showing us building this canoe. So that's an interesting resource. And it's something you can do in just a week or so, as a family project.
And it might be built. I remember one summer my dad built a tree house with us.
Mm-hmm.
It might be building a tree house. One year we built a deck. It might be building boats. But doing some kind of ongoing project like that can give you a reason to get up in the morning and get outside, a reason to do things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really valuable when everything's canceled. So your kids aren't laying in the bed till noon and then staying up till 2 a.m. playing on their devices.
You and I built a deck
before
we sold a house one time. And I have that's just like engraved in the memory. I remember that.
My arms felt like needles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We nailed all those nails by hand.
Yeah. We didn't buy a gun. We nailed it with a hammer.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, all of those things, these are things we can look at the situation right now, and we can be so frustrated and so unhappy and dismayed by it. Or we can say, well, this isn't what I planned. What can I do with it? Because you do have opportunities mixed in with the disruption.
Well, another thing you can do is do an adventure.
Like?
Well, like it might be something as simple as we're going to sleep out in the backyard if you've got little kids, mm-hmm. or even camp out in the living room, to a big adventure like going backpacking or hiking somewhere in the wilderness.
Well, again, we've done a lot of camping as we traveled around the country and realized it doesn't have to be super complex.
No.
It doesn't have to. I mean, if you're just going to a state park or something with a campground, you just take that tent that you saved from your Boy Scout days or whatever, and just go out there and sleep for the night.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
It doesn't have to be elaborate.
You don't have to invest in a lot of sleeping bags. You can take bedding from home. You can, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can make do and have a lot of fun doing that. You can just go on day hikes. But just doing something a little adventurous is fun for building a relationship with your kids. And that can be big or small. You don't have to travel to China to have an adventure.
Mm-mm. No.
You can explore the state parks near you. You can even have little adventures around your neighborhood. You might go geocaching,
mm-hmm.
Where you look for geocache, try to find them by your GPS.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Orienteering, following map making. Our kids love map making just for fun. They love making up imaginary places and doing map making.
I read somewhere that there is a geocache on the International Space Station. How do you figure the coordinates for that?
That's really weird.
If it's moving around all the time.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how they do that. Anyway.
There's probably spatial coordinates.
Okay.
So I didn't know that. Geocache on the space station. That's really interesting.
I know it is. It's on the space station.
You can also do virtual adventures.
Like what?
Like you can watch movies together, pop some popcorn, and watch maybe a movie from your childhood with your kids.
What we have done sometimes as a date night thing is move the furniture around in the living room and make kind of a dinner theater out of it.
Yeah, set up some tables and have dinner.
Set up a folding table and have dinner sitting on the couch watching a movie.
I love to do that.
Just something, yeah, you can do those kind of things.
You can also do audiobooks or read alouds. Mm-hmm. And this is a great time to share the books that were precious to you as a child with your kids, or to discover some new classics, because doing that kind of thing, we've got some great ones on our site if you want to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is to share ideas, to share experiences, because they shared it. Yeah. How do you make friends? You make friends with people that share your interest and that you share experiences with.
Mm-hmm.
And when we choose to do those things with our family, to create shared interests, to create shared experiences,
Mm-hmm.
we help our kids become better friends. We become friends with our kids. As your kids leave home, your relationship transforms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you'll always be their mother or father, but a friendship aspect enters in that's really been a lot of fun.
Something that I've watched you and our older sons develop, and I've entered into it some as well. We're all readers, and we all have little different tastes on things. Well, Melanie and the older boys started swapping some books around, and now they're like avidly trading them back and forth, saying when the new one comes out, it's like, okay, who gets to read it first? All right, then I get it next. And
got kind of like introduced them to some of my authors, and they've introduced me to some of theirs.
So it's kind of like a fan club. So there's several authors, and we've got an episode of the podcast where we talk about books that we've enjoyed together and that many in our family have enjoyed too. That's a great thing, when you get a common interest introduced into your family life, whether it's music by a certain artist or books by a certain author or travel to a particular region or whatever it is, that's something that builds memories and it builds bonds. And you've got an opportunity to explore when you're together.
And, it's like the Lord kind of set the reset button here.
Mm-hmm.
He slowed us all down. He's taken away all those outside activities that kept us running, all the things that we might send our kids off to. Mm-hmm. That's gone.
Even the good things.
But those distractions have been slowly being removed,
mm-hmm.
Or suddenly being removed. And I think we need to embrace it, not resist it,
mm-hmm.
and say, okay, Lord, what do you have for me to learn during this time? How do you want me to spend this time with my kids? Mm-hmm. And actively seek ways to build those shared interests and shared experiences that will form the foundation for your relationship in years to come. We've mentioned a lot of resources that we have available. You can
mm-hmm.
find those at raisingrealmen.com
mm-hmm.
and at craftsmancrate.com.
Mm-hmm.
We have a character building audiobook library of the books that our adult kids said most influenced their characters growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find that at raisingrealmen.com. We have the Canoe book, lots of resources out there. Check it out at raisingrealmen.com.
Mm-hmm.
We're everywhere on social media at Raising Real Men. We have loved talking to you. Hal has
mm-hmm.
a phone number that you can call to give us feedback
mm-hmm.
or to ask questions or to suggest future shows.
So we would love to hear from you on our listener interaction line. That's at 919-295-0321. Okay. Once again, that's 919-295-0321. And that's where you can leave your comments. Let us hear from you. And who knows, you got a good question, we might actually have your voice on the podcast sometime.
And don't forget to leave comments below, to follow us wherever you listen, and to review us so that other people can find us.
Okay. So thanks for joining us. We know there's many things you could do with your time, and we appreciate your investment of a little bit of it with us today. Until the next time, I'm Hal.
And I'm Melanie.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, y'all.
You've been listening to Making Biblical Family Life Practical with Hal and Melanie Young. If you found this program interesting, challenging, and encouraging, why not join us on the web at halandmelanie.com. That's HALANDMELANIE.com. Or follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Facebook/HalandMelanie or Facebook.com/RaisingRealMen. This program is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Join us next week when we'll be back to talk about making biblical family life practical. Until then, thank you and God bless you for listening.